Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. This is Andrew Turner, co-host of the Thrive in the Age of AI show. And here we are with Dr. Stylianos. How are you, Stylianos?
I'm great, thanks. How are you, Andrew?
Good to see you again. I know you're now back in the bosom of the UK again, I believe. Back in
Yes, that's
Blighty.
correct. Yeah, I'm calling from London today.
He's coming live from London. He's kind of like gone further west. So who knows where we'll be next week? Maybe in America. You never know. It's a
Yeah,
moving target.
exactly.
Dr. Stelios he's always travelling. Anyway, good to see you again. So we've been talking about what's been going on literally in the last week. To be honest with you, I'm really pleased we kicked off this show on actually St Patrick's Day, which is obviously always a good day to kick off a show. When a good Irish celebration. It's giving them half Irish. You're not half Irish, but we never know. Maybe deep in your history. But one of the things I've found since we started it back in March is that and we're now in June obviously, is that the incredible pace of things that are happening every week. So, doing the research around today's episode, I know that you've been doing quite a lot of hands-on work, which we'll dig into in a second. But one of the things I was quite shocked at, which I know we want to cover on first on this episode, is about reasoning.
Hmm.
So there was a bit of you could say, what do you call it when you spoil a party? There's all these kind of all the players in the market, they're all saying, oh yeah, I'm the best reasoning model, I'm the best reasoning model, I'm the best reasoning, Anthropic, Google, OpenAI, etc. But then Apple dropped a bit of a bombshell yesterday saying that basically they believe that these reasoning models are not really fully as human or as eloquent as we think they are, and they are not performing. So I think they put them through, some of their research, they put them through some puzzles, including the Tower of Hanoi, where you stack, this is stacked in order of a size atop a rod next to two others. And then the player must move the Tower of Dis in from the first rod to the third by moving only one disc per turn. And basically, apparently as the problems got more and more complex, then actually the model or the response of the platform seemed to kind of give up. It kind of gave up on actually trying to answer the question. It just kind of went into it went into a loop. It didn't actually respond. It didn't actually come up with the solution, and it was kind of trying to overthink it. So maybe there's a bit of a interesting piece there. It sounds like they've done some comparisons against all the different models to blow up this point about reasoning. I don't know if you've come across that in some of your recent work. I think you did mention there was some stuff that you were touching on which sounded analogous, but fascinating how this thing's playing out. I know obviously we'll probably jump back onto the Apple topic in a second because they had they're in the middle of WWDC this week in Cupertino. But over to you, Artelios. What's any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. That's a very interesting finding, but I'm not surprised because I've been using AI to code a lot and with it, and it does seem that it's not very difficult to break it, as in to reach to hit a ceiling with its performance, and this seems to be a recurring theme it seems like I'm trying to reverse engineer these models, like the ones released by Anthropic and OpenAI, and it looks like at some point it just gets gets stuck in a loop that it suggests something, that's another bug, then suggests something else, and it feels that it can't really think the whole thing through, which is interesting because if you look into the history of artificial intelligence, like the early days, 50s, 60s, 70s, there were a lot of search algorithms that would solve problems like the Towers of Hanoi in a relatively efficient time. And what we have now is a very impressive piece of technology, which seems to be quite like some kind of overkill and maybe even not really suitable for this type of logical reasoning, which makes me ponder what's the way around it. Maybe in terms of LLMs, we're reaching certain limitations.
Oh, so it's a bit like saying that they're kind of like maybe the wrong tool for the wrong job kind of thing. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
the right tool for the wrong job kind of thing. That kind of
Yeah,
mixed
so
issue.
maybe it's a case of LLMs. Maybe they have to learn how to use other tools underneath them to fix, whatever it is they're trying to fix. So this might be a solution to this problem. I'm not entirely sure.
Oh, so
But
people think people think they can use LLMs to solve everything, and actually you've got to have a mix of capabilities
yeah,
to
LLMs are very inefficient.
solve the
Like I don't know
problem.
why someone would want to use an LLM to solve everything. I honestly don't know. So I don't think it's the best solution. But in terms of coding, that's very interesting because it's very It's a very structured
And what
problem. You can.
so you said, I think you said, did you say you've got Anthropic and OpenAI as kind of like
Yeah.
side by side trying to benchmark them? What were you finding from that?
Uh, there's differences obviously in terms of the user experience, slight differences, which this can also be subjective. Maybe different people will tell you different things. They don't, in terms of quality, a lot of people like Claude. I'm not sure if they're radically different. To be honest with you, I was watching some videos saying that OpenAI's O3 model is better in problem solving, but Claude is better in coding. I'm not sure why that would be the case. In both cases, it seems maybe Claude is a little bit more aware of how to become user-friendly or explain some things better. They didn't really help me find the solution I needed, none of them. So I had to come up with an alternative and suggest it to ChatGPT and then just restructure the project. So it's difficult to give a
So
very
it was like
definite.
so you did use it for some heavy lifting, but then you had some additional work you had to do to get to the result. Is that what you're saying? It
Yeah,
wasn't
it's
quite
not entirely
straightforward.
solved. Now it's stumbled upon other problems. So it feels that, I guess, a way to make these models work better would be to enable them to run the end-to-end pipeline, run multiple tests, which, for example, Codex now seems unable to do this. It doesn't have internet access, and there would be more self-reflection involved. Then again, it do take a lot of resources. So all of these models, they do take a while to run. So I understand where OpenAI is coming from. I think I think all these companies, they're still losing money. I think they're still staying afloat by investment, venture capital, or otherwise. So I'm not sure how long they can keep doing this for without looking into more efficient modes of computation.
Yeah, I mean, so what you said, I mean, on the reasoning side, I presume, I mean, that was only yesterday apparently that Apple put this stuff out there, or the last few days. I presume there'll be a response from all the usual suspects to say, oh no, you got it wrong, da 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 da. Yeah, so that'll be interesting to kind of report in the future. And then one of the things I also noticed, that 'cause I watched part of WWDC yesterday with Tim Cook and the rest of the leadership team from Apple, and they've got this liquid gas, like not liquid gas, liquid glass, which is this new UI they're going to do. But actually on the AI side, a lot of the analysts that I said that read the reports last night, they were pretty lackluster, like not very impressed at all. They said they were going to open up the Apple LLMs that they built internally to all the developers, Apple developers, but it basically will be later this year. So it does sound like they are still, as we talked about a few weeks ago, they're still kind of behind on their AI initiatives. And obviously, even though AI means Apple Intelligence, a bit of smart marketing, obviously it sounds like they've got a way to go yet to catch up there.
Yeah.
One of the things also I was going to say to you was about, because obviously, the Tesseract Academy is a business around education and, training. And given we're now in June, we're halfway through 2025. I suppose, what was your kind of, any thoughts on the kind of outlook, the kind of plan for the rest of the year? Because it sounds like I know that you've been doing some experiments around how to best support people in the market, how to build a community, how to work out how to engage with people. What have you learned about that recently? Because I think you've had some quite interesting breakthroughs, haven't you?
Yeah, so one of the things that we very much focused on these days is building up community, starting with the WhatsApp group. And it feels that's like the way to go because with AI driving a lot of content online, it feels like there's a lot of saturation and it feels that people want to connect with other people. So online and offline, like in-person events and communities seem to be the way to go. And that's something we're working towards though, right? So if anything, we also most likely will organize a couple of events in the next couple of months. It's just they're not been announced yet. One event is around AI for creative professionals and creative industries. And the other one is going to be around AI tools and accessibility in partnership with an accessibility consultancy for visually impaired individuals. So we're going to talk about AI tools and how visually impaired individuals can make the most out of AI, which is another area that I think we're very interested in. We should, I think everyone should care a bit more about this because I think AI is opening up a lot of possibilities for these people. And not only AI, it's like pretty much like we saw during COVID and the lockdowns, the metaverse taking off. Like I don't hear about it as much anymore, but I think it's a very interesting concept for people that have certain forms of, let's say, disabilities, like they don't find it easy to go around, things like that.
Yeah, I was at an event last week. There was about 150 people there in the centre of London about data, and there was a couple of execs spoken from the public sector and private sector about their AI initiatives. And I think there's definitely a switch now, because I think people are in their bubbles, but then actually making that human connection. So I think maybe the mixture of, as you said, the WhatsApp group, I suppose, is kind of like a way of curating and sharing, content. It's like a tsunami, it's like a fire hose, isn't it? But what's most relevant to the groups. I know you've got a few groups on there, and then I suppose then the in-person events would then kind of spark it into another level. Is that your thinking?
Yeah. I mean, really, we want to hear back from the community, right? So we decided, because we organized a few networking events, and a lot of people said that we're interested in some kind of lecture or workshop. So that's one of the things we're working on now. It's really about making meaningful connections. There's nothing really to sell there. People come and say hi, we try to help each other, and then hopefully this leads to something else. That's how we actually met some really cool people, like United, who created our metaverse, Jeremiah, who is an expert in teaching generative AI to executives, and all sorts of other people. And everything is always around AI and Web3. We might be hearing more about Web3 in the coming months, depending on how the market goes.
Yeah, the research I was looking at was kind of like, I think some of the things that people need to think about is, obviously these kind of core skills that is part of the curriculum about, prompt engineering and, just AI literacy, data analysis, interpretation. One thing, I had an episode of the Praxi Pod recently with a very senior person from a very big global organization. And we talked a lot about AI ethics and about AI governance. So I don't know if that's an area that you want to develop into, or you want to kind of help people around that whole, the guardrails around it and how you manage it at scale. Have you any thoughts around that?
Yes, we are actually developing a course on AI ethics with someone from King's College. So that's one. In terms of governance, it's something that we've been asked about. We don't really have any courses right now on that area. We have some other courses which mention governance, maybe as like we have one on data strategy, which also talks about data governance, and a little bit of AI governance. But we should be, we should probably be covering this as well. So that's actually a good idea. It's something that maybe it's worth asking our community more about.
That's a good one. And then one of the things also was coming out was about actually, there's this kind of, there's this thing called human-centered design, But there's also a big theme, I think, about creative thinking, problem solving, emotional intelligence and empathy, leadership, communication skills, critical thinking, adaptability, resilience, like that, all those kind of human skills that, you can. So, there's this phrase, I think you probably heard of this thing, is it an AI augmented human? Yeah. How does a human play to their strengths, but actually again get the support from the relevant AI platforms and tools that are out there. But I think the overall kind of research I was doing around this was there seems to be a big uptake in people grabbing the nettle and getting on with it, but also you still need to be a lifelong learner. So I think that kind of fits, very well into the kind of the mission you've got at Tesseract, isn't it? About actually, it's not just you do one step and it's done. It's it's continual.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I think all of us have to become lifelong learners. There's no way around it. That's AI or otherwise, right?
Yeah, just to finish off then on today's episode, one of the things I thought was quite interesting, there's some obviously you talked about Apple, but I don't know if you heard about the thing about Meta actually. In June, they've laid off 2,000 people in Barcelona, just alone.
Really?
They basically moved thousands of their human content security roles to AI moderation, so AI models for doing the moderating across their platforms. So they basically severed loads of contracts with people that were doing the moderation and all the fact-checking, hate speech, all that kind of stuff, and all the policy enforcement. So they basically just did that apparently a few weeks, about 10 days ago, just in the early part of June, which I thought was quite an interesting thing. So they've actually flicked the switch. I know they talked about doing it before, but it's interesting to see how that plays out. I know last time we spoke about the Google I/O conference, which we got VO and all that good stuff that came out of that, which was pretty impressive. Then one of the things I thought was interesting was Baidu, who were the Chinese tech giant. they seem to be now responding to DeepSeek and Manus and all these kind of things. So apparently they're bringing out a AI model called Ernie by the end of June to compete with DeepSeek and any kind of other places, because obviously they've got a chatbot called Ernie Bot apparently, which is freely available today. So when they say people, I don't know if you remember this, but in the UK there was a famous comedian called Benny Hill, and he did this character called Ernie the milkman. So you just when I saw Ernie, it just kind of triggered in my mind about a kind of a comedian being a milkman, not an AI chatbot. That's what just triggered. You probably didn't cover that in Greece when you were young, but if you look on Benny Hill, Ernie the milkman, there's probably some stuff on YouTube about that.
It's a bit of a peculiar name, but yeah, DeepSeek is an interesting one. I mean, it was all the rage, and you don't hear it about nearly as much. I think because after updates in OpenAI and Cloud, most people just don't care. And I think a lot of it was just distillation of ChatGPT, but let's see how that goes. Baidu definitely does have the resources to release something which is going to be of top-notch quality. And China has been incredibly competitive in the last few years in terms of universities and the engineers it produces. Even though I would suspect that the training and all that will probably have more of a, Chinese bias. So I'm not sure how this would translate to English speakers and, knowledge that relates to the Western world, But, we have to wait and see.
Yeah, exactly. It's, as you said at the top of the hour, it's thriving. Every week something's happening. So in terms of kind of the outlook, I know that you mentioned last time we were on, there was going to be an event around AI and product management. Has that happened now, or is that still planned?
No, it's happening in a week and a half or so.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll be also letting our community know more about it. So I think the best place to learn about these things is sign up to our newsletter, as well as sign up for our WhatsApp group.
And where do people go to do that?
For the newsletter, they go on the website. For the WhatsApp group, we don't have this publicly listed on the website because we want to invite people. So once you join the mailing list, you have two options. One is you just can get in contact with us, use the contact form, or every now and then we send out an email to people from our newsletter who haven't joined the WhatsApp group saying, hey, maybe you'd also like to join the WhatsApp group.
And what's the website URL, just for reference?
Tesseract.academy with double S.
Tesseract.academy, okay.
Yeah, for anyone who's reading the Substack post or some social media post, we'll make sure to add this in the description. Okay, so it sounds like we've got this AI and product management with Jess, is it? Jess that's doing that, yeah? Correct.
Yeah, in the next couple of weeks. And then is there any other things? I mean, I know we're coming into this kind of silly season of where people are around on holiday. Obviously, I think we're going to continue doing this on as regular basis as we possibly can, just to keep the momentum going. But are there any other particular events that you've got coming up that planned, or is that something we can announce in the future?
We're probably going to organize something for July and August in person in London, but nothing's set in stone yet, so it's still up in the air.
Well, I suppose now you're back in Londinium, then I suppose it's a bit more on your doorstep, isn't it? So.
Yeah, exactly. So it's good to organize some events here. The weather's also a bit warmer, so maybe, we could do something. I don't know, maybe a boat party. No, I'm kidding.
The Tesseract Summer Party, there you go. You heard it here first. Quote Andrew Stylianos to get a 10% discount. All right, cool. Thanks for today's session. Any other points you wanted to raise before we wrap today's episode?
No, I think it was a very interesting session, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, we're going to keep it fast and furious, and thanks for joining. Thanks for being part of this journey with us, and look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks a lot. Ciao, ciao. Thanks, Stylianos.
Thank you.